Good morning to everyone. Good morning to everyone. Good morning. Oh, there we are. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. All right. I am Dr. Kimon Joseph, head of UWI Open Campus, and it is my pleasure to be the moderator for today's finals, which is between the Orion Academy and the Waldron STA Academy. Congratulations to our presenters for making it thus far. It has been quite a journey for the entire second term, and so we are very pleased to have you today to do your presentation. I really enjoy being part of this competition, and I enjoy things that involve young people and showcasing young people. In a world where we hear so many terrible stories about young people, I'm always pleased to be part of something that glorifies the work that young people are doing. And our young people throughout the second term from all the various secondary schools have been doing tremendous work in preparation for these debates. It's not easy to stand in front of people and speak. I train people to do it all the time, and I know some people tell me they would rather die. So I know that it is not easy, so I really applaud the young people who have been practicing and debating for the term, and those who have made it thus far. So you are all winners. I know people say that all the time, but it really is true. And just to be here and to be in this final round is an honor in itself. So I am to tell you about the rules of the competition. So we will have our speakers. We have two speakers from each school, and I will introduce them in a while. And our debate topic, let me find that, is the laws, policies, and institutions aimed at protecting children in Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse are inadequate. Adequate. Let me take that again. The laws, policies, and institutions aimed at protecting children in Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse are adequate. Proposing that topic will be Orion Academy, and opposing that topic will be Waldron SDA Academy. So the first speaker from the proposing school, which is Orion, will speak for 10 minutes, and then the first speaker for the opposing school, Waldron SDA, will speak for 10 minutes. Then we'll have the second speaker of Orion Academy speaking for 7 minutes, and then the second speaker of Waldron speaking for 7 minutes. We will then have a 5 minutes break, and then there'll be no talking during that time. That's going to be very hard for us members of the audience, but we're going to try. And then we will have the rebuttal, and the speaker from the proposing team, which is Orion, will come and speak for 3 minutes, and then the rebuttal for the opposing team, Waldron, will come and speak for 3 minutes before the judges move to do their deliberation. So these are the rules of the competition. If students go over, there's a 1 minute safety window. If students go over that time, 5 points will be deducted by the judges for going over their time. All right, I will now tell you some of the sponsors who have been part of getting everything ready throughout the term. We have had with us New India Assurance, AC Shillingford and Company Limited, primarily through Promex Milk, Domlec, Lindomat, Fine Foods Inc., primarily through KFC, Q95 FM, DBS Radio, UWI Open Campus, Insurance Company of the West Indies, Public Service Union, Body Bliss Spa, National Bank of Dominica, Flow Dominica, Dowasco, Freeman Consultant Group, Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited, Dominica News Online, Digicel, Vibian TV, Western Illinois University, Val Ferry, Creole Habit Magazine, Springfield Trading, National Cooperative Credit Union, and Lovely Things. The partners have been the Ministry of Education, Human Resource Planning, Vocational Training and National Excellence, the Dominica State College's Literary and Debating Society, Exquisite Events and Rentals, as well as the International Organization for Migration. Now, we have some wonderful people who will be helping, well, they will be the ones deciding who the winners are going to be. Our officials, our judges for today. And we have as Chief Judge, Mr. Brenton Hilaire, who is the Agency Manager at Sagicor Life, and he's the President of the Dominica Association of Industry and Commerce. He's certified John C. Maxwell coach, teacher, trainer, and speaker. And he's part of the Toastmasters International. Please clap for Brenton Hilaire, our Chief Judge. And today, Mr. Hilaire will be assisted by Mrs. Delia Coffee Weeks, who is an agriculturalist and a social worker. Delia loves advocating on behalf of vulnerable people. She is a mother, a daughter, a grandmother, an aunt, a sister, a wife, and a victim supporter. She's part of the Piece Together facilitator. She is a Piece Together facilitator with the Lifeline Ministries, and she loves the arts and theater. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Delia Coffee Weeks. Our third judge is Mrs. Cara Shillingford Marsh, who is an attorney at law, and she graduated from the University of the West Indies with first-class honors, and she also attended the Hugh Wooding Law School, where she excelled in mooting, representing the law school at the prestigious Price Media Law Moot in Oxford. She was also part of the Kiwanis Club debates competitions when she was a student, and she was part of the team that won in 2005. So, Cara, welcome. So these are our judges. Brenton Hilaire, who is our Chief Judge, Delia Coffee Weeks, as well as Cara Shillingford Marsh. And now it is time for me to present the young people who are the stars of today, who will be debating. So, on the proposing team for Orion Academy, the first speaker for Orion is Lena McGlaw. And Lena, tell you a little bit about Lena. Lena is in Form 5. She likes English and literature. She plays badminton and volleyball. Lena recently participated in the equestrian competition in Martinique. She hopes to embark on a career that will combine her love of language as well as her love for animals. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Lena McGlaw. Lena, please come forward. Assisting Lena today is Diamond Daniel. Diamond is a fourth former. She likes math, chemistry, and IT. She plays netball, volleyball, and football, and she's looking forward to a career in either law or medicine. Please welcome Diamond Daniel. Speaking first for the SDA Academy will be Miss Berja Bertrand. Berja is a fourth form science student. Her favorite subject is social studies. She desires to enter the medical field, and she enjoys reading and listening to music. Berja Bertrand. And today, Berja will be assisted by Miss Shereen Carbon, who is a fourth form student at Arthur Waldron SDA. She enjoys chemistry, IT, technical drawing, and math. Her career focus is in architectural technology, and she likes playing the trumpet, watching documentaries, and spending time with her family. Ladies and gentlemen, Shereen Carbon. Okay, So these are our 4 debaters for today. Again, on the Orion side, we have Lena McGlaw and Ms. Diamond Daniel, and they are proposing the topic, while we have on the opposing team, Ms. Bertrand and Ms. Shireen Carbon. I am going to walk down to the bottom of those stairs there. And when I do, I will get the other mic, the roving mic, so I can introduce the first speaker to come to the podium. So give me a few seconds so I can get to the bottom of those stairs. Those of you in Radio Land was wondering about the silence, I'm there now. I'm at the bottom of the stairs. All right. So the topic is the laws, policies, and institutions aimed at protecting children in Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse are adequate. Our first speaker from Orion Academy is Lena McGlaw, and Lena will have 10 minutes to do her presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, make Ms. McGlaw feel welcome.
Madam Moderator, honorable judges, generous sponsors, our gracious audience, and our capable opponents, good day and welcome to all. One of the most deplorable crimes a person can commit is to sexually abuse an innocent child. Children are our country's most precious assets, and therefore we must protect them to ensure a bright future. The issue being debated here today is whether the laws, policies, and institutions aimed at protecting children in Dominica from sexual abuse and exploitation are adequate. My worthy opponents claim that they are not, that as a nation, Dominica has failed to put in place the proper legislative framework and policy guidelines to protect our precious, vulnerable children. Judges, let me assure you that is absolutely not the case. Before I prove this to you beyond any doubt, allow me to define a few key terms. The Oxford Dictionary defines law as the system of rules which a particular country or community recognizes as regulating the actions of its members, and which it may enforce by the imposition of penalties. Additionally, it defines policy as a course or principle of action adopted or proposed by an organization or individual. And finally, it defines institution as an established law or practice. According to the laws of Dominica, specifically the Sexual Offences Act, Chapter 1036, the term minor refers to a person under the age of 18 years. However, anyone under the age of 16 is not legally capable of consenting to sex. Furthermore, according to an official United Nations website, sexual exploitation is defined as an abuse of someone's position of vulnerability to obtain sexual favors. It also includes trafficking and prostitution, and it defines sexual abuse as the physical intrusion of a sexual nature, whether by force or under unequal or coercive conditions. My team and I conducted a thorough research into the laws, policies, and institutions of Dominica with regards to child sexual abuse and exploitation, and we have found that they have been meticulously structured to provide the best possible protection for our children. In my delivery, I will highlight a few of the many laws aimed at safeguarding children against 1. Sexual exploitation, and 2. Sexual abuse. Let's begin with the matter of sexual exploitation. As I stated earlier, the United Nations basically defines sexual exploitation as abusing a position of authority to obtain sexual favors from a minor. Sex trafficking and child prostitution are major problems worldwide. This is without a doubt one of the most repugnant crimes that an individual can commit. Judges, the laws of Dominica do not take these acts lightly. According to the Sexual Offences Act, Chapter 1056, Section 18, a person who procures, which means to source, acquire, or pay for a minor, is guilty of an offense and liable on conviction to imprisonment for up to 25 years. Additionally, according to Section 23, a person who is the owner, occupier, or manager of any premises where a child under 16 years of age is being used for sexual intercourse is guilty of an offense and liable on conviction to imprisonment for 10 years. Capable opponents, the laws of this land are clear and strict. Any person who solicits a minor under 18 to engage in sex in exchange for money, goods, or favors can be convicted and sentenced to a decade and a half in prison. Even someone who owns the building and knowingly permits the prostitution of a minor can be convicted and sentenced to 10 years. As a matter of fact, anyone who has reasonable grounds for believing that a child under the age of 16 is being abused is legally obligated to report it, according to Section 31 of the Act. Failure to do so could result in a fine of $30,000 and imprisonment for a term of 5 years. Does that sound lenient to you? Sadly, sexual exploitation of children often comes from a trusted authority figure in their lives. The laws of Dominica strongly condemn any such abuse of authority. Sections 6, 9, and 10 cover cases where the child is exploited by a blood relative or by any other authority, such as a guardian, adopted parents, or an employer, and each scenario carries up to 25 years. Madam Moderator, the law leaves no stone unturned. There is zero tolerance for child sexual exploitation in any form. Secondly, let us address child sexual abuse. As we have established, the age of consent is 16. Therefore, any adult who has sexual contact with someone under 16 is guilty of an offense on the crime of sexual abuse. Using force makes it even worse and will compound the charges. However, even in the case where the minor agreed, the law does not recognize consent. According to Section 7 of the Sexual Offences Act, this applies whether or not the abuser believes the victim is older than they are. So for all the perverts who say, you don't have the body of a child, or the most overused one, you are mature for your age, pretending to be ignorant of the age of a minor does not excuse you under the laws of Dominica. Even when you have been lied to, legally it is your responsibility to verify. Worthy opponents, does the law sound lenient to you? It goes even further than just sexual intercourse. Section 14 discusses gross indecency, which includes groping or touching the private body parts of a minor and presenting a minor with pornography, whether in person or electronically. This carries a prison sentence of up to 20 years. Madam Moderator, Section 22 even addresses sexual grooming of a minor under 16 years of age. It states that any adult person that carries on communication with a minor and meets that minor in any part of the world with the intention of having a sexual or romantic relationship can be convicted for up to 14 years in prison. Honorable judges, clearly the laws are very stringent on this matter. Now, Let's make one thing clear. As diligent as the law is, it cannot control the thinking or behavior of perverted individuals. And therefore, it cannot entirely eliminate sex crimes against children. The laws of the United States with regards to child sexual abuse and exploitation are arguably very strict. And yet, a report from the University of Pennsylvania revealed that between 100,000 and 300,000 women and children are forced into sexual slavery in the United States every year. This is the sad reality of the dark and evil nature of some humans. Judges, I am sure my worthy opponents are prepared to share with you some heartbreaking individual stories. But please remember, the topic today addresses the adequacy of the laws themselves, not the non-compliance of a few deviants. Worthy opponents, the facts presented are undeniable. The laws, policies, and institutions in Dominica with regards to child sexual abuse and exploitation are indeed adequate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nina. Your time was 9:04, so well within your 10 minutes granted to you. All right. The first speaker on the author Waldron side is Bertrand. Bertrand, I invite you to come to the podium now to make your 10-minute presentation.
Madam Moderator, honorable judges, my most worthy opponents, supporters, my esteemed colleague, good afternoon. In 2017, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States and the United Nations Children's Fund commissioned an assessment of the child protection and child justice systems across all 9 OECS states. They reported, and I quote, "The law on its own will not be enough to sufficiently transform the child justice landscape of Dominica. Law reform is most effective when combined with a number of other essential ingredients, including robust social service infrastructure, strong programming, capacity building, and well-considered policy." End quote. Today, my colleague and I stand firmly in our opposition to the moot that the laws, policies, and institutions aimed at protecting children in Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse are adequate. Permit me to define the key terms. According to the Oxford Dictionary, laws are rules that deal with a particular crime. Policies, according to the Center for Disease Control, is a law, regulation, procedure, administrative action of government and other institutions. Institutions are organizations founded for a religious, educational, professional, or social purpose. Sexual exploitation is an actual or attempted abuse of someone's position of vulnerability, power, or trust to obtain sexual favors. According to the Children and Young Persons Act of Dominica, child is defined as a person under the age of 14 years. And finally, the Law's Black's Dictionary defines adequate as sufficient, equally efficient, equal to what is required, and suitable to the case or occasion. As a first speaker for the opposition, I will be presenting on 1. The inadequacies of the laws, and 2. The inadequacies of the policies aimed at protecting children in Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse. My colleague will be expounding on the inadequacy of the institutions dedicated to the point. Firstly, the laws in Dominica aimed at protecting children from sexual exploitation and abuse are inadequate because the rate of reports is still high, while the rate of convictions is very low. Cases are not expedited, and the penalties are very lenient. Let us look at the problem of low convictions. In 2016, the Sexual Offences Act was revised to accommodate several needed changes. Admittedly, the efforts to include measures relating to mandatory reporting of crimes, greater penalties for offences, among other critical things, are certainly commendable. However, there is still a marked increase in reports, but a low number of convictions. This is an indication that something is not right. Let us look at the numbers. According to the Criminal Investigation Department of the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force, in 2018, the total number of reported cases of sexual exploitation and abuse was 45. By 2020, that number increased to 58 and moved steadily up to 79 by 2022. Shocking, right? Here's why. The court system does not expedite sexual offense cases. Sadly, the law has no limitations on the number of times a child victim can be questioned and examined after the abuse has taken place. My most worthy opponents, as a young person, I am usually afraid when I think of the reality of what happens in my country. Why is it that the court system seems to be going out of its way to facilitate these predators, yet the victims are rarely considered? Do you know that this story could have been easily typed and filed? If the law is as adequate as you claim it is, why isn't the paper committal clause used for not some, but all of the cases involving child sexual abuse? My most worthy opponents, do you know that 6 days ago, on March 29, 2023, Dominica News Online reported, under the heading, "Resident Judge Encourages Police Investigators to Revise Method of Investigation in Sexual Offenses." Clearly, we have a problem that needs to be addressed. This fits in perfectly with what Sister Tina Alexander, mental health social worker and qualified counselor, said in an interview. She stated, and I quote, "One of the main reasons for the withdrawal or lack of conviction of reported crimes of sexual exploitation and abuse is the length of time the matter takes to reach a conviction. Changing the law without changing the structure of the court does not help the victim. Right now, the whole process of investigating sexual crimes against children is abusive." End quote. Furthermore, the law is inadequate as a result of poor enforcement because the penalties are not severe enough to be any actual deterrent. According to the Sexual Offences Act amended in 2016, Section 14(1), any person who commits an act of gross indecency with another person is guilty of an offense and liable on conviction to imprisonment. If the complainant is a minor under 16 years of age, for 14 years a first offense and to imprisonment for 20 years for a subsequent offense. End quote. Very detailed, I must say. However, over the years, there have been numerous examples of reduced sentences for sexual predators due to simple things such as good character, guilty plea, among other trivial reasons. Even with strong laws in place, if there is a lack of resources and political will to enforce them, perpetrators may not be held accountable for their actions, leading to impunity and continued harm against our children. Additionally, cultural and societal attitudes towards sexual exploitation may create an environment where enforcement is not prioritized, making it difficult to effectively address the issue of weak penalties. For the law to be considered sufficient, we need to stop considering the feelings and good behavior of the perpetrators and consider the crime that they have committed. My second point is the policies are inadequate. In preparation for this debate, my colleague and I conducted a survey across Dominica to get the public's view on the topic of the debate here today. 60% of the respondents stated that the penalties of the law are too lenient, while the other 30% indicated that the process is too long and too slow. Do you know, my most worthy opponents, God forbid that you are molested or raped, after you have given your testimony, been examined by several doctors, been to court once or twice, faced your abuser just for him to tell you are lying. If you decide that you are tired with the long and traumatic process and say you no longer want to pursue the matter, the case dies. I know, surprising. The evidence is there, the crime has been proven, yet the abuser goes free. Why? Poor policies, inadequate policies. Let us consider the matter of mandatory reporting. Madam Moderator, my opponents may say that there is a mandatory report clause in the law, but how many of these cases were convicted because of reports? How often does this happen in Dominica? Do you think that because there are no reports, abuse is just somehow not taking place? I wish. Honorable judges, consider the Education Act, the governing document for educational activity on island. It is the rule of law for the place where our children will spend most of their day. It concerns me that there is little to no stipulation within the Act about how one should deal with the issue of reporting sexual abuse at schools. There is no policy that dictates that teachers have to present a police record or background checks are to be made on them before they interact with our children. But what am I saying? There is no sex offenders registry in Dominica. For years we have been speaking about it over and over and over again, and here we are in the year 2023 with nothing. Don't believe me? Well, on May 20th, 2014, Mr. Francis Joseph, among other activists, demanded an explanation from the judge when the judge threatened the full force of the court if the names of the perpetrators were published. This threat was in direct opposition to the law. According to Section 38(1)(b) of the Sexual Offences Act of 1998, the name of the accused can be published, and I quote, after the person has been tried and convicted of the offense, end quote. Fast forward 8 years later, different act amended in 2016, same clause. On July 22nd, 2022, Dominica News Online released an article, and I quote, Minister for National Security and Home Affairs, Reuben Blackmore, says that the government of Dominica is open to the idea of introducing a sex offenders registry. Well, let's wait. It is definitely coming. Honorable judges, there are too many factors which render the laws and policies that are aimed at protecting children in Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse ineffective. As I take my seat for now, I would like to remind you, my most worthy opponents, as Nelson Mandela, former president of South Africa and anti-apartheid revolutionary, stated, and I quote, our children are our greatest treasure. They are our future. Those who abuse them tear at the fabric of our society and weaken our nation. End quote. Please let us not support this behavior. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Berger. Your time was 10 minutes and 11 seconds, so you are within the window. So thank you very much to our first speakers. We had from the proposing side for Orion Academy, Lena McGlaw, and the opposing side, our first speaker was Berger Bertrand. Our topic is the laws, policies, and institutions aimed at protecting children in Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse are adequate. So we now move on to our second speakers, and the second speaker for Orion Academy proposing our topic is Ms. Diamond Daniel. Diamond, you will have 7 minutes to make your presentation. Please make your way to the podium.
Madam Moderator, honorable judges, generous sponsors, our gracious audience, and our worthy opponents, a pleasant good afternoon to you all. Are the laws, policies, and institutions aimed at protecting the children of Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse adequate? My colleague and I are convinced that they are. Capable opponents, did you listen as she explained how robust the Sexual Offences Act of Dominica is, and how it covers almost every imaginable crime that could be perpetrated against minors? I am sure after hearing this, the judges agree that the laws have been carefully designed to protect the children of Dominica. I will now discuss the institutions and policies that have been put in place with the sole purpose of child protection. As my teammate stated earlier, the Oxford Dictionary defines institution as an established law or practice. However, it also offers this alternative definition: an organization founded for religious, social, educational, and professional purposes. Dominica's main institution or organization for the protection of children is the Social Welfare Division. This institution is filled with dedicated and caring individuals. The Welfare Division provides counseling to families and individuals. They also work along with school counselors and peer counseling groups. Additionally, they are responsible for organizing and coordinating the foster care program of Dominica. This involves assessing hundreds of potential foster parents to ensure that they can provide safe, healthy, comfortable, and loving homes for children, many of whom have been rescued from a sexually abusive situation. The Welfare Division also has a special child abuse protection unit. In an interview with the coordinator and one other member of staff in this unit, our team learned that any report of child sexual abuse or exploitation is taken very seriously. Holistic assessments of the school, community, and the home are conducted in collaboration with an officer from the Criminal Investigation Department of the Police Force. During the course of an investigation, if the claims of child abuse or exploitation are substantiated, then the Welfare Division always does what is in the best interest of the child. Capable opponents, these hard-working individuals often have the heart-wrenching job of separating a child from a dangerous environment, even when the child themselves does not want to leave. But they must do what is in the best interest of that child. Can you imagine how emotionally draining this job is? And yet, they do it day after day and year after year to protect our children. How dare we say that this institution is not adequate? The first line of defense for investigating cases of child abuse and exploitation and protecting victims is the police. What are the policies of the Dominica Police Force with regards to investigating the sexual exploitation and abuse of children? Madam Moderator, the public is often quick to condemn the efforts of the police. We hear people claim that the police do not have proper investigative strategies or that they simply do not care about the victim. But my team and I interviewed an inspector of the Dominica Police Force, and we were assured that this is absolutely not the case. Worthy opponents, did you know that such a high priority was placed on this matter that the Dominica Police Force, the Ministry of Health, and the Welfare Division collaborated to produce a 32-page policy document outlining the proper handling of rape and sexual assault cases? These policies have been carefully crafted to dignify the victim without compromising the investigation. Let me share with you some examples of excellent police policy. 1. The child should always be questioned in the presence of a parent or guardian. And when the parent or guardian is the one accused, a welfare officer will be contacted and assigned as a guardian. 2. All female victims over the age of 14 should be referred to a gynecologist on call. However, those under the age of 14 should be referred to a pediatrician who then must request assistance from the gynecologist on call. 3. Any specimen collected from the victim during the medical exam must be handed over to the police, who will sign to confirm receipt of the samples. And the medical examiner also records the name, rank, and number of the officer to protect the chain of custody. These are just a few examples, and there are many more. And these policies are actually in harmony with international standards. Judges, it is abundantly obvious that the laws, policies, and institutions aimed at protecting the children of Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse have been conscientiously designed to provide the best standard of protection. Therefore, we are confident in our position that they are adequate. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Diamond Daniel for her presentation. Diamond, how much was it again? Oh, 6:25, so well within your time. Our final speaker is Shireen Caban for author Waldron SDA Academy, and she is speaking on the opposing side as the second speaker. I welcome Shireen to the podium. Shireen, you have 7 minutes to do your presentation.
Madam Moderator, judges, my most worthy opponents, my esteemed colleague, good afternoon. I stand with my colleague in opposition of the moot that the laws, policies, and institutions aimed at protecting children in Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse are adequate. I have listened to my opponents, and I am still shocked by the arguments which they are presenting. Do we live in the same Dominica? Even after my colleague has exposed the inadequacies of the laws and policies, are you genuinely satisfied that justice is being served? Tell me, my most worthy opponents, if the institutions which are aimed at protecting our children from sexual exploitation and abuse are providing such adequate protection, then why are such cases increasing? Today, I'll be examining the inadequacies of the following institutions: the family, the school, the church, and the welfare division. Firstly, let us examine the inadequacy of the family. Presently in our society, many of our parents are young adults, and some even teenagers who are not ready to become parents. Many are unable to notice the signs of abuse, and they do not know what to do if this is shared with them. Support groups are limited. Family counseling is almost non-existent, and the family court is absent. This leaves the family ill-equipped from protecting their children. Thus, the child is left exposed and defenseless. Honorable judges, according to the reports from 2018 to 2020 by the Criminal Investigation Department, there was a total of 349 cases of child abuse and sexual exploitation in categories such as unlawful sexual intercourse and connection, indecent assault, incest, burglary, among many others. That's 349 cases, too many. Madam Moderator, families in poverty are the breeding grounds for sexual exploitation and abuse among children. Instead of leaving the homes, parents take hush money in hopes to care for their family. My worthy opponents, our society is concerned. My colleague and I conducted a survey across Dominica in preparation for this debate, and response to the question of whether the institutions which cater to this problem are adequate, 81.3% responded no. That's a lot of no's. Guess what? Who feels it, knows it. The second institution is the school, which was created to train, nurture, and protect children. Staff of the early childhood and daycare centers are not even equipped or trained to properly report abuse. Additionally, it may be argued that high schools are now equipped with their own guidance counselors who are able to counsel victims and report sexual offenses to the authorities. But wait a minute, let me enlighten you, my friends. Did you know that to provide therapy, one should possess a master's degree in counseling psychology or clinical psychology? According to the welfare officer, some government schools have guidance counselors with only a bachelor's degree. thus making them unqualified to provide therapy. What a sad reality we face here in this country. Furthermore, have you ever thought of the chain of command for a report to be filed? Child confesses to counselor, counselor reports to principal, principal to educational minister, minister to PS, PS to minister, minister to police or welfare department. That can take months, and confidentiality can be compromised. Meanwhile, the child is in the same place where he or she was or is being abused. Thirdly, the church. We are cultured to believe that the church is the lighthouse and the beacon of hope for the community. However, it has sadly become one of the places where abuse and sexual exploitation are swept under the rug, as pastors defend deacons and acolytes defend priests and members defend and protect their pastors. When this is done, what happens next? When the very leaders you look up to and you trust crush your already broken spirits, where do you go? When God-fearing people protect your abuser instead of protecting you, the abused, who do you go to? And what happens to them? Nothing. Yet my opponents still have the audacity to tell me that what is being done in our institutions in Dominica are adequate. Come on, we can and must do better than that. However, we must admit that some churches try to protect the children, but are churches equipped and qualified? Is there a set structure in place that must be followed for reporting? Based on interviews conducted with various leaders of several churches in Dominica, there is no set structure to follow when an incident of child sexual abuse is reported. According to Pastor Joseph, and I quote, "We are to call the police." End of quote. Reverend Fraser indicated that at present, her church is setting up a policy, a faith-guarding policy, to protect the vulnerable. So my most worthy opponents, if the protection provided by our institutions are so adequate, why is there a need for the formulation of such policies? Pressure is therefore placed on institution number 4, the Social Welfare Division, the only government institution in Dominica to fight child abuse. And we must admit that they are being overworked, with only 4 child protection officers and only 1 counselor to service the entire population. Obviously, this number of personnel cannot adequately handle all of the cases of the entire nation. And in case you question the accuracy of this, you can inquire from any welfare officer of the division. Honorable, I stand resolute in my position. Our institutions are inadequate because 1, the family is not equipped. 2, the churches have no set structure. 3, the schools is handicapped. And 4, the welfare department is overburdened. Thank you.
Shireen, at 6:42, you are well within your time. Okay, so now is the tricky time for us members of the audience. So before I get us going to that point where we have to be absolutely silent, I'm just going to tell you who the partners are for today's debate and for the debate season. The International Organization for Migration, the Ministry of Education, the Dominica State College's Literary and Debating Society, as well as Exquisite Events and Rentals. The sponsors have been AC Shilling Fund and Company, Proponex Milk, Creole Heartbeats, DBS Radio, Digicel, Dominica News Online, Dominica Public Service Union, Domlec, Dowasco, Fine Foods, Flo, Freeman Consulting Group, Insurance Company of the West Indies, Body Bliss, Josephine Gabriel and Company, Lovely Things, Q95, National Bank of Dominica, National Cooperative Credit Union, New India Assurance Company, Springfield Trading, UWI Open Campus, Val Ferry, Biden TV, and Western Illinois University. Speakers, that was like $1.5 million of more time for you, okay? All right, so audience members, we are now to observe 5 minutes of complete silence so that they can plan for the rebuttal. So 5 minutes of no talking from us while somebody's trying to tell me, oh, the lights are a problem for them. It's not me. The people in charge of the lights. Thank you. All right. So 5 minutes of silence. Ajani, can we have 5 minutes on the clock, please? All right, time is up. You have been such a wonderful audience. Thank you so much for being silent for those 5 minutes. So our topic again is the laws, policies, and institutions aimed at protecting children in Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse are adequate. Our proposing team have been from the Orion Academy, and the students are Lina McGlaw and Diamond Daniel. Yes, that's correct. Lina McGlaw and Diamond Daniel. Who is doing the rebuttal for us is Lina. I now welcome Lina to the podium to give the rebuttal. Lina, you will have 3 minutes.
Good day to all once again. I listened carefully to my worthy opponent's arguments, and it is clear that they are passionate about protecting children from sexual abuse and exploitation. Judges, let me assure you that we are too, and we strongly believe that the laws, policies, and institutions in Dominica have been designed to do just that. My worthy opponent claims that the laws are not adequate. However, our research has proven that the laws in Dominica with regards to child sexual abuse are actually up to date with international standards. My worthy opponents also said that confidentiality can be compromised. But our research has shown that police will sign to confirm receipts, and examiners will also record the name, rank, and number of the officer to protect the chain of custody. My worthy opponents also stated that some people will not receive or are not receiving adequate sentencing, and conviction rates are low. However, honorable judges, keep in mind that in a court of law, a judge's sentencing capabilities are limited based on the evidence that was presented. If the prosecution fails to present a strong case, then the judges will be limited. Also, if the police fail to do a proper investigation, then there will not be a lot of evidence to build a case on. When this happens, it reflects a failure on the part of these individuals to follow the established laws and policy guidelines. It does not reflect inadequacy of the laws themselves. Worthy opponents, even though some individuals in our system may fail to enforce what has been established, our thorough research has proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that the laws, policies, and institutions of Dominica with regards to child sexual abuse and exploitation are indeed adequate. Thank you.
Thank you, Lina. Your time was 2:10. Our speakers for the Arthur Waldron SDA Academy have been Boja Bertrand and Shireen Caban, and presenting the rebuttal for Arthur Waldron is Boja Bertrand. Boja, you have 3 minutes.
Good day again. Allow me to reiterate our position in this debate. We stand strong in our position to the moot that the laws and policies and institutions that are aimed at protecting children in Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse are adequate. I know that my opponents suggested in their speech that the laws are designed to protect children and the laws do what is in the best interest of the children. But I would like to remind you that when the investigation is actually being done, children can be questioned without limit and have to relive their trauma over and over again. How is that in the best interest of the child? Also, there is no sex offenders registry. If a sex offender moved right down the street from you, you would have no idea because nobody is privy to that information. Also, while my opponents argue that welfare helps with counseling, fostering, and dealing with sexual abuse, our position is that they want to, but are limited in their abilities. Yes, welfare is tasked with dealing with sexual abuse. And yes, they try their best, but they have a limited staff and are clearly overworked. One counselor, imagine that, one counselor for 349 children. Impossible. And finally, my most worthy opponents, you made the point that there will still be sexual abuse. We are not doing, let me remind you, we are not doing enough. Yes, there will always be abusers. There will always be evil people on earth. But there is clearly a problem in our society if the cases keep on going up with no downward trend. Let me remind you, we stand strong in our opposition to the moods that the laws and policies and institutions that are aimed at protecting children in Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse are adequate. Thank you.
Thank you, Bourgeois. That was 2 minutes and 1 second. So thank you very much for that. We are now inviting our judges, and our chief judge is Mr. Brenton Hilaire, and he's going to be, well, he has been assisted by Mrs. Delia Coffey Weeks and Mrs. Cara Shillingford Marsh. We invite them to leave to go ahead and do their deliberations while we continue with you lovely people in here with me. So while they are away, we are going to do 2 things. We are going to recognize some people who have been key in terms of the debate proceedings thus far. And then I'm going to spend some time with you talking about some of the points that we discussed in today's, well, not we, they. The children discussed in today's debate. So our first section is, okay. All right, so I'm being asked to ask the children to just step off the stage for a while. So our debaters, you can come down and be part of the audience for now. You all did a wonderful job, if I do say so myself. And we'll talk about your points in a little while. So I have been asked to spend a little time focusing on some of the presenters from the other debates that led us to this point. So throughout the course of this debating competition, several students showed great promise and potential in public speaking from the various schools. Although their teams did not make it to the finals, we believe that these students should be rewarded for their memorable contributions to this year's debating competition. A good orator is memorable in all spheres of public and professional life, and we look forward to hearing more from these debaters in the future. The debaters who will be highlighted are Tiana Smith of Northeast Comprehensive School, Ajanaya Casimir from the St. Mary's Academy, Rowan Christopher from Portsmouth Secondary School, and Akila Ballon from the Isaiah Thomas Secondary School. So fix your eyes on the screen so we can see some highlights of these wonderful presenters.
Isn't Christian spiritual growth an important aspect of one's holistic development? It most definitely is, honorable judges.
And ultimately it also boils down to respect. Ultimately, young people lack respect. Respect for themselves, respect for others, and respect for life. Young people these days, they look without respect, but the root stem a child's creativity. They are smarter ways, they are more constructive ways, and they are more worthwhile ways, such as culture and sports. Not these hairstyles should not come, as I said again, at the expense of a child's learning. And we spoke about discrimination. We all expected it. However, listen to this. Uniformity and standardization prevents discrimination. If students are on the same level, regardless of the same hairstyle, how can one discriminate against another? How can one bully another? How can one make fun of another? How? It prevents children from looking down from one another because of the hairstyle, because all the children are on the same level.
Unconventional work hours.
Why big? That some of our forests doesn't look sacrificing. Time and time again, something has been recognized in the and it's led to the gospel. Where was recently
Everybody there, straight to you. Straight to the University of the West Indies. This is fantastic. To those of you who have not been around for the entire season, you have certainly missed a treat. And we're glad you're with us today. But you certainly missed a treat because the debates were really, really good. And the students performed very, very, very well in their various competition rounds. So again, we want to offer congratulations to Tiana Smith of Northeast Comprehensive School, Ajanaya Casimir of St. Mary's Academy, Rowan Christopher of Portsmouth Secondary School, and Akila Barron of Isaiah Thomas Secondary School. There are some people who are here, two of them, and so I'm going to just invite Ms. Tari Anselm to present them with their prizes. Ms. Christian, who are the two children who are there? Okay, so we know for a fact that Ajanaya Casimir is here. So Mr. Casimir, come down please. Ajanaya Casimir, representing St. Mary's Academy. Akila Baron. Is Akila here? Yes. Akila Baron representing Isaiah Thomas Secondary School. Clap for Akila. Thank you. Is there any chance that Tiana or Rowan made it? No? All right. But congratulations to all the 4 students who are recognized for their orator skills. I have one more thing to do before I get to talk to you about the proceedings of today's debate. And that is, I need to recognize the Inter-Secondary Schools Debating Competition Committee members. So, I'm not sure how many of them are here, but if they are here, I'd be grateful if they'll stand when their name is called so they can be properly recognized. Ashley Massicott, Dr. Davidson Lloyd, Mrs. Dion Dura-Smith, Mr. Joel Challenger, Ms. Marie-Ange Emmanuel, Nadine Rivera, Rajiv Wallace, and Ray Francis. These contributed to the topic writing. Thank you very much for your work. Some of them are overseas based, of course. Those who were involved on the logistics team, Alicia Jajak, Daisy Williams, Janice Corbett, and Tari Anselm. Thank you so much for your service. And on the promotions team, Noah Alfred, James Rodney, Josiah St. Luce, and Simaj Bernard. Thank you so much. But one name I'm not seeing there that deserves to be recognized, Miss Trudy Christian. Thank you for your hard work. The debating officials this year, Andrew Christian, Annika Bellot, Anthony Edwards, Antonia Yankee, Brenton Hilaire is our chief judge for today, Cara Shillingford Marsh, who is assisting today, David Edwards, Delia Coffee Weeks, who is assisting today, Delroy Williams, Elizabeth Xavier Daly, Felix Wilson, Gail Sharpless, Indira Seja, Jaya Pendeng, Joanne Commodore, Dr. Kimon Joseph, Dr. Lyndon Auguste, Merita Hyacinth, Father Nigel Karam, Nicole Laville, Fayel Lander, Senator Philip Roll, Shari Pascal Maroney, Victor Emmanuel, I believe that's doctor, and Wendy Wallace. So thank you to all our judges who assisted throughout the season. And so now I want to talk to you. I have to go up there because I have to give up my mic, and Ajani will help me with that. I want to talk to you a little bit about our topic that we had today and the points that were discussed. I have a lot of things, so just give me a second. Let me gather myself like a bag lady, and then I will move up to the top. So Ajani, if you could hold on to this mic, and then I will go to the top. Okay, so we're not judges, so we're not judging their performance. They've gone away to do that and to deliberate on that. But I do want to share with you and have you discuss with me for just a little bit while we wait for them to come back on our topic of today. So the topic was the laws, policies, and institutions aimed at protecting children in Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse are adequate. And we had the proposing team was from Orion Academy. We had Lena McGlaw, assisted by Diamond Daniel. And opposing the topic was Arthur Waldron, SDA. And we had Boja Bertrand, assisted by Shireen Carbon. So, yes, clap. Okay. So we're going to look at some of the laws, especially where it's specifically related to the Sexual Offences Act, of course, that was presented mainly by the proposing team. But we also got to look at areas specifying that the law on its own is perhaps not adequate. I'm saying perhaps to be, nice and neutral. You're going to take over a little while on that. And the first area I noted was conviction versus report. And so we got some statistics specifically about the number of reports that we are getting versus the convictions, and there are obviously discrepancies in, and the numbers do not balance at all, as well as that the policies themselves are inadequate. So I'd like to talk to you about that, those of you who know about these things. What do you think in terms of the conviction versus the reporting? I also want to talk about the mingling, I couldn't think of a better word, but the mingling of the Ministry of Education and the Education Act with the Sexual Offences Act. I thought that was interesting as well. And at the moment, they seem to be in two different directions. We got the startling statistics that the early childhood people don't know what to do, really. The secondary school teachers are not really sure what they should be doing, how do they report, and so on. And we also got the statistics that but there are no master's clinical psychologists working in the schools. So really, there's no qualified person in the schools to deal with that particular issue. So I'm opening the mic. I'm just taking these two for now. Convictions versus reports, as well as the relationship, well, that's a better word than mingling, the relationship between the Ministry of Education and the Education Act and the Sexual Offences Act. Now, Ajani has that mic and he's willing to pass it to anyone who wants to start us off. So don't be shy, or I'll make you sit here in complete silence until I don't want to do that, because I don't think I'll enjoy that. So let's hear your opinions and your ideas about these two before we can move forward. Anyone? Oh, Mrs. Shajak. Mrs. Jajak was the former principal of the Dominica Grammar School.
And I am just clarifying that there are counselors with master's degrees at the school I just vacated. There were at least 3 counselors with the master's degrees.
In clinical psychology?
Yes. So I just want to put that, well, they were certified counselors. So I just want to put that on the table.
Okay, thank you. Somebody said something else.
Not so. Well, I am just having some say all schools did not have.
Okay, Ajani, could you move around quickly with the mic, because I don't think that we can hear people. Okay.
No, we're acknowledging that some schools have. We're saying some does not have.
Okay, but I'm not, Mrs. Jajak, I may be talking a little bit out of tune. But I'm inclined to believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there are more without than with.
I don't have the study.
I don't have it either. Some do. Okay. All right. Anybody else would like to make a contribution? Oh, it wasn't a question, I just had my 2 first points: conviction versus reporting, if anybody wants to talk about that, or the relationship between the Education Act and the Sexual Offences Act. Okay?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just want to say that, to give an example, we know that that stealing is bad, raping is bad, but it still happens. Reporting should be something that you just do it. If you see somebody steal or hit a vehicle, which we call hit and run, you say, okay, I know that vehicle, PH, whatever number it is. So even if you don't know what to do, or in the first instant of reacting, you could always ask somebody, hey, I just saw this, should I insist of telling a guardian or a police officer? So in this case, if you're not sure what to do, you should more react than keeping it in, because the victim is also the one who's being held back. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much.
First of all, I would like to say that the time allotment for the finals is inadequate. We wish we had more time to say more things, but 10 minutes was not enough. On the topic of the Education Act and the Sexual Offences Act, it's a little bit disturbing, and I perused the Act many times to see if I could see. One thing I noticed though, that, what is it, I don't know if I got it correctly, I think it was 1997, the Education Act is 1997, and then the amended Sexual Offences Act is 2018. You see the time? 2017. Right, thank you. So from 1997 to 2017, I think if we amended the act that relates to the majority of the population of the schools that we have in Dominica, there should be some amendment of the Education Act to at least accommodate some of the measures or the policies from that act. And that was something that we wished we had time to talk about. I think it's something that should be looked into, because there's no way that we are talking about children, and children spend majority of the time at school, and the act that governs that institution cannot accommodate some of the things that they want to actually implement or safeguard the students from. So that's one. And two, another disturbing thing is, I have children myself, and the sexual offenses, is there sexual, the registry, the predators, I don't remember the exact.
Oh, we're going to come to that one.
Right. So when we come to it. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Anyone else? All right, we're going to go up those stairs, Ajani.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, what I was thinking is, if a minor is sexually offended by somebody, and let's say it goes into court and it takes years for the case to be, dug into and dealt with, the person that might have committed the sexual offense is just throughout the country, probably doing it to other people, just there. What do you do about that? Because that doesn't feel right to me. I don't know about other people.
Anyone else?
Yes, good afternoon. Just to add on to what she said. For me, this raises a lot of issues as a young person in the country, one, and also somebody that observes a lot of things that go on in illegal proceedings. But what I find, as she mentioned there, and it doesn't just extend to issues such as sexual abuse, but let's even go a step further and look at murder, right? Someone commits murder and evidence is being gathered to commit their case, and for some reason they get put out on bail, and they're just allowed not to leave the country, but it doesn't prevent them from committing another murder or another murder. And this cycle continues until they're caught. In the same way for the sexual abuse, since there's no actual registry to say that X and X is, a known pervert or a known pedophile or something of that sort, if the person is released on bail, and if people are not aware, they could go into a different community altogether and they could abuse someone else, and it spreads like that. And so there's no actual deterrent or no actual cap to say, okay, well, since this is done, let's prevent that person from, going forward and harming other people. Now, for me, in terms of linking back to Education Act and stuff like that, the debate spoke about the laws and the policy and the institutions. Now, my question is that it does it's very plausible because it has happened before, but what about the abuser is someone in the helm of those offices or those officiations then who exactly would they be accountable to? What method or what fail-safe would be to prevent such and such that? So is it going to be a situation where everything is just hush-hush and then, okay, never gets there? Or, you know, somebody has a wing in somewhere, so the case is not just, you know, locked, because everyone knows the court system is already backlogged, but it just prevents getting to court because somebody has a hand with someone else. You know, so in situations like that, what are the policies or what are the stuff that we have in place to prevent, you know, people from getting away just by having connections, you know?
Mm-hmm. Very salient points there. And you draw us to the sexual offenders registry that we have been talking about for a little time now, and Miss was alluding to that just a while ago, that, you know, even in our communities, that we have people that and nobody knows. And, you know, there are places like in the United States and so on where they cannot live X amount of miles or whatever from a school and so on. But here we do not have that type of protection, and people can move freely about, and there's no registry for that, or nobody can say, well, you can say it if you're mouth, but you have no legal support if you tell somebody, we don't want your kind in our neighborhood because we've heard about you. I mean, you can't say that, you know, not in Dominica for sure. You should be, somebody's from the United States, you should be able to. Yeah, but we can't. So let me just hear, you know, what are your thoughts on the sexual offenders registry? Miss, I know you wanted to say something, and there's somebody, okay.
Miss, I believe the safety point everybody's making is null and void, because in the act, there is you can file for a protection order after you make the report. So, and if the person violates that, they can be arrested. Mm-hmm. And conviction, it depends on evidence, and if you don't present enough evidence, your sentence is likely not be as harsh as if you presented evidence. Mm-hmm. And usually the prosecution is prosecutors, they're usually I don't want to say incompetent, but they lack evidence that, you know, would result in a fair sentence.
That's a valid point. That is a valid point. Could you pass the microphone to Miss about the sexual offenders registry?
Yes, I was saying earlier, it's tied into the Education Act, right? We have no sexual offenders registry, although I read something that says that the police has some record of all the persons who have done that, convicted, but it's not for the public. How do we make sure, is there anything, probably somebody from the Ministry of Education can assist us, is there anything to deter or prevent a sexual offender? Years down the line, they apply to be a teacher. They don't ask for a police record, they ask for a police record for simple jobs in Dominica. Do we ask for police records when we apply to be a teacher? That was years ago, I don't know if that happens now, it's a question. But it's something to think about, because it's kind of scary. We may have forgotten that person, they did something, but if we have a registry, then we know that we can check. And I think also it protects people who moved into the country, they don't know what happened in particular communities. It protects us all.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay. The judges are back. But we have one more person who would like to share something. Oh, a few people. Okay, and I would gladly take that if Brenton will allow. Yes, Brenton? Fine. Thank you very much.
Yes, I'd just like to comment on the sexual registry of sexual offenders, because that is really important. The important you mentioned points about community, from the family to the churches to the schools, and if there were a registry, then eventually the community will come together to be able to stand up and protect those individuals who have been afflicted or affected by that situation. And as a community and as a country, as a culture, a lot of times, communities come together and protect the people who are causing the harm, the sexual offenders. If there's a registry and they are known and they're identified, then hopefully, although we understand that the law does not define morality, but the law, if it does not protect those who are being hurt, then morality then is affected by the law, because we are not truly standing up for those who are being injured and who are being hurt by those laws.
Thank you very much. All right, there was a student from convent, and yes.
Good afternoon. I'd just like to raise a question about, sex offenders and the lawyers, like lawyers against sex offenders and sexual activities against minors and, relations like that. How common are lawyers like this and attorneys that deal with these situations in Dominica? There's a lot of criminal defense lawyers and other lawyers relating to law, but sex offenses are very prevalent, and it's just a question raised.
Okay. Carol, do we have a specific group or of lawyers who deal particularly with sexual offenses? Do we have that, or is it just in general criminal law? Ajani, if you just pass the mic to, I'll come back to that person, don't worry, I'll come back. I just wanted to ask our lawyer on the panel if she can answer the young lady from convent for us.
Okay, I think the question related specifically to lawyers who support victims of sexual abuse. To my knowledge, there's no specific committee or grouping of lawyers who focus on that particular aspect, but I'm certain individually you find lawyers who represent victims, because I have been in situations where I represent victims of sexual abuse.
Thank you very much. So there was another contribution, and then after that we will have to take our critique from our chief judge. So I will welcome the final comment.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Also, I would like to add a little bit on the sexual offender registry. I would advocate, I am a strong advocate for it, because so many times in our culture we see that the victim is always the one that is getting blamed, or shame blaming, or media blaming, or even in the classroom, or even for their peers. Even if they're the victim and they're underage, we always see that the victims are the ones that are getting blamed, especially for our young women. So I don't know if there's some way that we can probably advocate for a committee for victims, or I don't know what we can do, but we need to put something in place that we can support the victims, because many times when that happens, even in the home or in the church or in the school or wherever it is, the victims doesn't even want to come forward because they know what comes. We see examples of others. So as a community, as an education, as people of citizens of Dominica, we have to find a way to support our victims, especially our women, because it doesn't so much apply to the male, which it should also, because they are being victimized as well. So we have to find a balance, and we have to not stop protecting the ones that are victimizing our children.
Thank you very much. That's a wonderful way to end our discussion. Thank you very much. Our topic, the laws, policies, and institutions aimed at protecting children in Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse are adequate. And proposing that was Orion's team. Leading that team, Lena McGlaw, and supporting her, Diamond Daniel. Opposing was the Arthur Waldron SD Academy. Leading that team, Bourgeois Bertrand, and her support was provided by Shireen Cabot. The judges have returned, and so I now invite our Chief Judge, Mr. Brenton Hilaire, to give the judges' critique. After that, I will give the scores and announce the winners. Mr. Hilaire.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I think we can do better than that. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. That is the energy that I expect from young people. Leave the old person like me to be lacking energy at this point in time. First of all, I want to say that I stand here very proudly to represent men. We had a debate finals of only women. We have a judging panel dominated by women. So I'm the sole man. And I would love to see more men making it to the finals at the next event. So Trudy, definitely you need to make this happen again. And I'm putting a call out there to the men. Let's do better. Overall, the judging panel felt that today's debate was a very good one. We had very strong sides on both ends, both for the proposing and both for the opposing. We made some notes of what we felt was good from the presentations and some areas we felt that could have been improved on. First of all, we want to commend the team on making eye contact. Oftentimes we hear the comments that you should not just be looking down at your paper, but even if there were views of the paper at some point in time, we saw that each individual would put up their head and look to the left, look to the right, acknowledging the judges and whatnot. So this is excellent. We want to encourage you to keep this up. We saw that there was passion coming out at some point during the debates, and we want to encourage that because it brings about an added level of conviction. When you're debating about a topic as important as this, you want to show the people that it's not just presenting information, but you believe what you're saying about the information. So we want to encourage you to continue this practice. It was clear that research was done. In all the years of my life, I learned things today that I've heard about for the first time. So I want to say thank you to the youth. They say that the youth are the future, and the youth opens up the eyes of adults, sometimes things that we overlook. So we appreciate you putting so much effort into this topic that you presented on today. There was also good use of data and statistics that came throughout the presentations, which really added to the overarching theme that you were speaking about, and that was very good. We must commend all the presenters, everyone who spoke here today, for the majority of the presentations were very clear, very audible. So I believe we have some maybe excellent politicians to come up in the future. Just joking. Good use of time is excellent, and that's one thing a lot of speakers take for granted. When you are given an allotted time to speak, you should respect that time, and I believe everyone was within time today. So that by itself deserves a round of applause. And to sum it up, we felt that everyone who spoke here today showed some level of confidence. It was said earlier, the number one fear in life is public speaking. People would tell you, shoot me, instead of putting me in front of an audience to speak. So the fact that these young persons came up here and showed confidence by itself deserves another round of applause. Areas that we felt could be improved upon, it's just general information. First of all, I mean, we all have butterflies, regardless of how polished you are as a speaker. I bet Kimon can agree to that. You feel the things in the stomach moving around. One thing that helps is when you're speaking, if you start to feel it, you could slow down. And when you slow down, it gives you an opportunity to compose yourself. For the presentations today, we felt that you could coordinate the definitions to maybe come up from one individual rather than being split between two persons. And that would help you to ensure that there's consistency to the message and also even better use of your time in presenting. I mentioned the use of data and statistics earlier, but we felt that there were opportunities where that could have been expounded upon. So there were a lot of powerful statements made throughout the presentations today, but there were opportunities where those statements could have been supported with even more data. And for those of us who know maths and statistics and ratios, it's about comparing data over years with other territories, looking at different things to add some weight to the points that you're making. Also, last point we felt that could have been improved upon is during the presentation, I mentioned passion, but we felt that there were more opportunities to add to that passion through the use of vocal variety. So if you're bringing home a very important point, you can raise your voice. Don't be afraid to. Or sometimes you hit a very powerful point and you can pause and let that sink on the audience's mind. So those are just some tips that you can use in the future whenever you're engaging in public speaking or maybe in another debate. All in all, this was a very excellent presentation, and I want to congratulate everyone who took part in it, especially to our finalists. It's not easy to be up here. I know that it is a daunting task, but the fact that you actually present it by itself makes you a winner, and that is something that no one can take away from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benson. And now it's time for me to give the results. So I'd be grateful if the students could go and stand on the podium, not the podium, on stage, please. So Lena and Diamond, as well as Berja and Shireen. And I'm now looking at this for the first time. All right. You want me to move, or you want them to move the podium for you? You want me to get up there? Okay. What I was trying to avoid, but sure. Okay, so our debating topic, once more, the laws, policies, and institutions aimed at protecting children in Dominica from sexual exploitation and abuse are adequate. Proposing that topic for Orion Academy, Lina McGlaw and Diamond Daniel. Opposing the topic for Arthur Waldron SDA, Berja Bertrand and Shireen Carbon. The proposing team from the Orion Academy scored a total of 615 points. The opposing team from Arthur Waldron SDA Academy scored a total of 689 points. Therefore, the winning team from Arthur Waldron SDA Academy, Ms. Berja Bertrand and Ms. Shireen. The best speaker for today is Berja Bertrand from the Arthur Waldron SDA. Congratulations. So the ladies, I'm going to hand back now to the people in charge of the inter-secondary schools debating competition, since my role is complete. And I just thank you, the members of the audience, for bearing with me. I hand back to Ms. Trudy Christian, who will deal with the prize giving. Good afternoon. Prize giving time. Congratulations to the Arthur Waldron SDA Academy, the winners of this year's Inter-Secondary Schools Debating Competition, and to the runners-up from the Orion Academy who put on a strong fight. Congratulations to you as well. Mr. Hillier, I believe there was one thing that we did not get, the best rebuttal. We also have an award for that. So look at that for me, please. We do have a special award this time for the best rebuttal. But I'll go ahead and present awards. Of course, our lovely sponsors, some are present today. to present some of the awards. I'll start off with awarding or calling on the best speaker, who was announced as Miss Berja Bertrand from the Waldron SDA Academy, to receive her prize. Ms. Bertrand, you can step forward. She is winning for this, of course, the lovely trophy, and she's being awarded a gift package from Lovely Things, and from DBS Radio, $500 cash prize as the best speaker in the finals. Congratulations, Ms. Bertrand. And as I said, we do have a Best Rebuttal Award. I will announce it when the judges have given me that. I guess you can use the little blackouts to give us the best rebuttal results. Flashlights are okay. Okay. I know camera people know you are, completely in the dark and will not be able to record. So let me give 2 minutes to see if we have a generator. Anyway, some brief history whilst we get in the dark, and it's nice and movie theater-ish in the room right now. The Waldron SDA Academy are the real underdogs in this competition. I will explain why. They were knocked out in round 1, and then because they were the highest scoring team that had been knocked out in round 1, they were invited to rejoin the competition in round 2. And so they stand here today as the winners, as a testament that we should never give up. The Orion Academy also had some little issues along their route. In their first round debate, they were scheduled to debate against the good old secondary that pulled out at the last minute, leaving them without a school to debate against in round 1. So the Orion Academy also came from a disappointment in round 1 and were chosen as finalists, were judged as finalists in this competition. So for all the secondary school students present from the schools that did not make it, this is just, giving you this feeling that you should always continue to try, because you never know where you may end up. So who knows who will be the finalists next year after the competition. But this year we had 2 schools in the finals who went through quite a bit to get here. So congratulations once again to the Waldron SDA Academy for winning this competition. And to the runners-up, the Orion Academy. Do I So I was told it's a blackout. So I think we should continue, I don't know, to just present our in the dark. Yeah. Present our awards in the dark. I will announce the runners-up. They can get their awards right now from the Orion Academy. They will be receiving gift certificates from Val Ferry to go to any destination that Val Ferry serves. And they will also be receiving specialized gifts from the Intersecondary Schools Debating Competition and Miss Diamond Daniel can step forward in the dark to receive their awards. We do have a nice setup outside for pictures, so possibly it's better lit outside. They can get their pictures with their awards at any time. To the runners up. Will be awarded. I will start with the first award that they will receive. They are receiving a special prize from the University of the West Indies, UWI. Dr. Barry Casimir is present to present. It is a scholarship to attend a developing leadership presence or public speaking and professional presentation skills course in the summer of 2023. And Ms. Shireen Kavan, congratulations from the University of the West Indies. I'll give you all a little flashlight. New India Assurance and AC Shillingford Promex Milk. The winners are also receiving an all-expense paid trip for 4 to St. Lucia. And compliments of New India Assurance and their trophy sponsored by AC Shillingford Promex Milk. And they will be receiving that prize when they choose their dates that they would like to go. They will be on an all-expense paid trip to St. Lucia. So congratulations. First speaker, Ms. Waldron. And second speaker, Ms. Shireen Kavan. They also receive, and Mrs. Williams, you can present this one, the trophy for the school. So the Orion Academy, no, the Waldron gets to hold on to this trophy for 1 year. There's a challenge from the Orion Academy that they're coming for again. I know the Convent High School is present. Are you all challenging as well? I know the Dominica Grammar School is present. Are you all challenging as well? Let's see. Let's see what happens. So, the winners, the Waldron has a grand trophy for their school. And I also would like to recognize the coaches. We have been making a special effort to recognize the coaches because I know as a coach that a lot of the work is being put forth by the coaches. So I'd like to recognize the coach from the Orion Academy, that's Mrs. Abigail Woodman. Mrs. Woodman, the coach of the Orion Academy, the runners-up for this debate. And the coach, I know the Waldron SD had a big team, but Miss Jeanette Barry. As the
for your hard work in preparing these students for this. Judges, if in the darkness you got that best rebuttal, just give me a sign. And can somebody, yes, give me that result? We have a prize for the best rebuttal in the finals, which was sponsored by Mr. Milton Lawrence. And this prize is going to the opposing team, the winners, the Waldron SDA Academy, the rebuttal. So the best rebuttal prize is a gift certificate to Jay's Bookstore, sponsored by Mr. Milton Lawrence. So thank you, coaches, thank you. And the last group I will thank are my students from the DSC Literary and Debating Society, who have really assisted and made this debate competition what it is. So I will call on them. So students, you can rejoin your classmates, your teams. I'd like to call on Mr. Ajani Shillingford, the president of the DSC Literary and Debating Society, to receive a token of appreciation from us. Miss Janice Corbett, who was the faithful judge's assistant for multiple debates and lead coordinator of the volunteers for the debates. Miss Megan Menz, who worked as our photographer for many of the debates. She's the historian of the DSC Literary and Debating Society. And Ms. Kezia Roye, who was also a faithful assistant throughout this process. So thank you to the members of the Dominica State College Literary and Debating Society for all your hard work. Students from the Orion Academy, from the Waldron SDA Academy, and any other high school students present, we await you at the Dominica State College in the Literary and Debating Society. So I hope to see you soon. Come join my team. Okay? So this brings us to the end. But before we end, I'd like to thank the judges and the moderator for their role today, and we do have some tokens of appreciation. So judges, if it's not too hard for you to navigate your way here in the dark, Mr. Brenton Hillier, Mrs. Delia Coffee Weeks, Mrs. Cara Shillingford Marsh, we thank you so much for your work here today, and of course our moderator, Dr. Kimon Joseph, for your excellent job moderating today's debate. Thank you so much, and be careful as you approach for the gift. Dr. Joseph, I suspect you don't want to come up on those steps, but if you if you want to, feel free. And that Mrs. Delia Coffee Weeks, thank you. Mrs. Cara Shillingford Marsh, thank you. Chief Judge, Mr. Brenton Hillier, also acting as the escort on the steps right now. Mr. Hillier, Chief Judge. And of course, our moderator, Dr. Kimon Joseph. Audience, you have been wonderful, even in the blackouts. Many thanks to our sponsors. Many thanks to the sponsors for the final Domlec. Not thank you for the blackout, but thank you to all audience. Thank you, media, and all the general public. Thank you so much. See you next year for the inter-secondary schools debating competition. I'm signing out. As we would say in the debate world, I rest my case. See you next year.